Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Founder to Founder podcast. Today we have Bernita Bradley. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you. We've been in a lot of the same spaces. So I'm excited to have you here and talk about your story and what you have going on because you're a busy lady.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for even inviting. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So let's go ahead and just dive on in. So let's talk about what your breaking point was. In the moment that you realized the system wasn't going to save you or your child or anybody else's child.
Yeah, I think my first reality I've had a couple of those moments, but I'll say my first reality was when my son was younger. I remember him being in first grade or second grade, and he was going to a school where it was always an issue. It was always an issue, and most of it was kind of like bullying issues. I
Okay.
did have a problem with the school itself, but the actual bullying became really serious. Like he would come home and crying, and a little boy had kicked him so hard one day in the stomach. And he
Oh,
came home and he was livid. And I was one of the moms like, "We don't fight. Like, no, we tell a teacher and all." Like I'm trying to keep the peace, right?
yeah.
Especially for my young black boy, right? Who you get labeled quick anyway, right? And so the teacher himself called me that day and
Oh,
told me, she said, "Your son knocked the mess out of this kid."
man.
And I was actually happy.
He had
He
had
said,
enough.
"Because this guy has been picking with your son and this and that and that." And I was like, "Yeah, but why is it nothing being done?" Right? Like, this is your class. This is a first grade class. What are you doing? Right? Then when I went up to the school to have a conversation, he literally told me, he said, "You're a mom who cares." And I really honestly, I don't think you want your child at this school. This school is about to be closed next year. A lot of parents don't know, blah, 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 blah. And then a lot of things have changed. And I was like, "First grade? For real?" Okay, took him out of the school mid-year, took him to another school. That was a young black male educator that my son had.
Yeah.
I was happy for him to have that, right?
Rare.
He was in another school. When I say the teacher told me that she felt like young black males act a certain way all the time. I
Okay.
was like, "You know what? You know what?" So then I started like paying for school. I moved out of the city, all this kind of stuff, right? But then so my son is 10, 11 years older than my daughter. So I struggled with my son. Like I didn't know advocacy stuff. I didn't know all the things that I know now, right? But with my daughter, like I went through moving from school to school with my son, moving out of the district to find a better school. Like I was just like hoping better places for my son. Well, when I had this daughter, my daughter was different. She's just like an artsy kid. She from jump told me she did not like her school. Now, mind you, she had been in early childhood program from 6 months all the way up to pre-K. I mean, all the way up to kindergarten
Okay.
and loved it, never complained about her school. Loved the teacher. She'd come home all day long and tell me, "Miss So and so said we don't do it like that. Like Miss So and
Mhm.
so don't run this house," right? Like, but she was happy about it, right? So I'm happy. You love your school. Well, when I put her in the school that was local, near my house, my daughter came home one day and said, "I don't like that. That school is drab." Like, she was describing the school like it was just a downer for her. We were riding past a school in one of the, very rich cities next to us, which is Grosse Pointe.
Okay.
So we live in one of the poorest communities. Actually, they called it the Red Zone in Detroit. It's called the Osborne District. They used to call it the Red Zone because of the violence and blah blah blah. But we lived right like over from Grosse Pointe. Grosse Pointe was the richest community in Detroit. I mean, in the Southeast Michigan.
Mhm.
We were riding past this school, and she looked at me, kindergarten, and said, "Now, mom, now that's the kind of school you should have took me to." And I'm like, "What are you
Oh,
talking about? Like, first of all, child, you're not grown, right? Like, who are you talking to, right?" But then I looked, and all I saw was like color, just a beautiful playground. Like the building was nice looking, and she was just like adamant about at that age. And that was the day I took her out of that school.
wow.
I searched around, I found another school, and it was actually kinda close to us, about the same distance as the other school, but bright, colorful, all this kinda stuff, right? She had a beautiful principal. When the principal died and the school shifted to a new principal, the
Mhm.
whole atmosphere and the whole dynamic of the school changed.
Oh, that's rough.
Everything changed. A teacher lost my daughter. Like, there was all these different aspects. Yes, a teacher, I showed up when she was in 1st grade, my daughter wasn't there. And I'm sitting up there like, "What do you mean?" "Oh, she already left with you." Right? And
I'm standing right here.
I'm standing right here, right? And she's like, "Well, maybe your husband picked her up." No, he did not pick her up. So I'm calling my husband, and the lady looked at me and was like, I said, "Help me find her." So I'm like everywhere. I'm getting other parents to help me find my daughter. I saw my daughter coming from what, excuse me, let me backtrack. Before then, the same teacher looked at me and said, while I'm looking for my daughter, I said, "Please help me find her. Can you?" She said, "I'm doing my job. You need to do yours and find your daughter."
Wow.
Baby, I was like, "Okay, so we about to do the
Very
like,
scary.
I'm about to I promise you when I get back to this door and find my child, you gonna be hurt." Like, all these things went through my head. It's my child in the back of a van, everything. So we saw my daughter, and when we finally found her, she told me she literally saw a van like mine and told the teacher that, "Oh, there go my mom," and she let her go to the van.
And how old is she again?
She was in 1st
1st
grade,
grade at this point.
right? And for the longest, I was saying 2nd grade. For the longest, I kept saying second. And Victoria reminded me, "No, mom, remember Miss So and so was my 1st grade teacher." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Dang it, you were in 1st grade." But even in that 2nd grade, like she was not young enough. They had rules. Like the teachers are supposed to hand off a child to a parent, right?
Mhm.
This is an elementary school. Even the 5th graders really, like some of them walked home, but their teacher walked them out. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, so I really, at that point, I started getting into the school, and I used to own a hair salon and an independent living facility. And I tell people all the time, like, I wasn't into that. I didn't want to be in education. And that was not my calling, right? In my head, well, I decided I need to be at the building. I need to do more. Cause here I've had this one child 11 years ago who was going through some of the same mess. Now I'm going through that. Like, what is the problem?
Yeah.
And I just wasn't used to that because my education growing up, I grew up in Highland Park, which is like a little donut hole in the middle of in the middle of Detroit,
Okay.
a little city in the middle of our city, right? And when I grew up there, like we had, I'm not gonna even lie, like pristine. Like the teachers cared. Don't get me wrong, I had a couple of racist teachers,
Mhm.
but the other teachers made up for it. Like the whole school, the whole city, they knew you, right? Like there was just things, and we had our obstacles too. Don't get me wrong, but some of the stuff I was seeing was just so dangerous and just so careless. You ready or cut some of this out? But when I started being a parent in the school and volunteering, then I started realizing some of the aspects like, "Oh, there's something wrong here. What do you mean all of these students aren't reading on level? What do you mean these children didn't eat lunch because their parent didn't turn in a slip and you just let them go through here for 2 weeks and they did not eat? What do you mean? Like all the food that you're throwing out, why aren't these kids eating?" So we became that parent group who was literally vigilant about making sure all the children at the building had what they needed, right? Well, we were going on field trips with other classrooms. Before I was that parent who was like, "Look, I show up for mine and I'm good."
Mhm.
But now I ended up like, there's something wrong, so I need to be here. And the principal asked me to join AmeriCorps at the school as a parent. She said, "You always here anyway. You might as well get paid for it." I said, "Girl, I'm not trying to get paid to be up here. I'm good. I own a business. I'm doing other stuff." But then the more and more stuff that year, they started talking about the schools were going to be taken over in oversight. And then I started learning about how many students weren't reading on level and all of these, how many teachers, the teacher shortage, didn't have psychologists. I was volunteering in the classroom. We had Hmong students there. That they would sit me with this little boy who was a Hmong student. The little boy loved me. We
Mhm.
had a blast. I didn't know what the boy was saying. He speaks nothing but Hmong, right? I'm
Wow.
just being a nanny really for the teacher because the teacher don't have an aide who speaks Hmong. And I'm sitting there like, what is wrong? So from there, I really start being vigilant about making sure other parents know what's going on in the schools. And if
Yeah.
we had concerns, understanding how like to address those concerns and things like that.
And the reason why I love hearing your story and that incident that happened for you is because through your story, the rest of us, myself included, can see our stories within yours.
Mm,
So, for example, as you were speaking, you were talking about your son and the negative connotations with him being a black boy and fighting. My son is 5. I have that fear. I was also a first grade teacher and I could never just, okay, you can go. When my parents over there, okay, bye. Like that's just not
mm,
something that you're allowed to do. So through your story, I know parents can hear like, oh, I had the same problem where the school lost my kid or
yeah.
my kid fighting. So those stories I find to be super powerful because we can see ourselves in them and we don't feel so lonely. So during those early advocacy times, like when you started going into the school because you saw the issues that were happening, did you get any pushback through being there a lot?
I didn't at first, right? Like, most of the principals love to have parents in the building. I will be honest, at the schools that I worked at, they really did. Until we had one principal who came in and she was very clear. Principal White was very adamant about the fact that she came from this school over on this side of town and she don't have it here. These parents ain't about to be walking through her building. This is literally how she would talk to us. Yeah,
Wow.
y'all don't understand. It's a new day around here. And I'm sitting up there like, what are you talking about, lady? What are you talking about? And so I literally would work and work and work tirelessly at this school, right? Until and mind you, I wasn't the parent lead. There was another parent leader named Mr. Hayes who was over me. And Mr. Hayes was the one who got me into the parent organization there, right? Me and him would talk and the dynamic would be like she really was excluding parents. Like she really didn't want to hear from parents. She just want our children to show up
Wow.
pristine, clean, ready to learn and shut up, right? And walk out the door, right? And she
Wow.
wanted us to become, while we were the parents who were rallying other parents and who were working with the teachers, we were working with the social workers to make sure students had clothes, had extra food, all kind of stuff. But she didn't want us to be that. She wanted to conform us to become the parents who were rallying parents. Just show up for parent teachers conference, make sure your children are doing good, make sure they're here on time, and then you leave. Don't ask no questions about nothing else at this building. Don't have a concern with a teacher, and she wanted us to be those parents who coach parents out of their rights, right? I was
Right.
like, no, you got me messed up, lady. You got me twisted, right? And so one day we were having a conversation about something violent that had happened on the block and of the school, a big fight that had happened. And we hadn't had that for a while. We had not.
Wow.
When I say when she came, she brought a different spirit to that building. And
Mhm.
I feel like it transferred to the teachers and the students. She sat there in that meeting and told us, "Oh, well, what you expect? Look at the neighborhood we in." I looked at her and I said, my God, if you feel this way about the kids, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be. I felt like that was my final straw. Like she had finally made me see, like, because if you go high up for leadership and leadership don't want to change, then you kind of fighting a losing battle, right? So I said, well, I'm gonna go beyond you. I need to find some other way of organizing this. So I joined another parent organization which helped me organize around the whole city and not just that school. And from there, joined a couple of other organizations and started working where I was teaching parents what it looked like to have a safe and caring environment in their community and safe and caring environments in their schools and their rights, right? Like what it looks like if you have an IEP student.
Mhm.
And my primary goal has always been to make sure as I work with students, with parents, I'm getting them to understand like this is a pay it forward thing. Whatever I teach you to do, you need to be teaching somebody else. It's not a one off for your child, right? Like when you're in that IEP meeting and you're learning what to do, when I show you what to do in your IEP meeting, I need you to know what to do for the next parent because I can't be in every place, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then in fifth grade, my daughter asked me to homeschool her because she had just had enough at that time. And I was like, no, I'm not homeschooling you. We're not going to do that. I had my misconceived notions about it. I'm like, we're not about to be enemies. I'm
Yeah.
not about to be sitting like all day. I don't have the teaching niche for me, right? But I didn't know what homeschooling was. But I struggled a lot because my daughter also ended up going to some of the top schools in the city and it just wasn't different. There was always a teacher. If it wasn't my child, it was my child telling me, "Hey, mom, there's a student in my class and the teacher been talking about her. Do you mind if I give her mama your number?" Like, this is my daughter in 6th grade,
Wow.
right? Or there's this kid in my class, they kinda have some issues and the other kids are bullying them and the teacher ain't did nothing. Can you talk to the teacher? And I'm like, "Well, baby, I can't talk to the teacher because that's not my child." So she
Yeah.
started saying, "Hey, look, my mama will call your mama, talk to the teacher. She could be your advocate," right? Like this is a elementary, middle school student doing this because she was sitting in some of the advocacy trainings with me, right? Because after school,
Mm.
I'm picking her up and she going right along with me. And when the pandemic happened, was when I broke. I said, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna homeschool," because I was helping other families, do it, you know?
Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing for me because all the advocacy work I had done, like I said, I never thought I would land, like, in the homeschooling arena, but, I saw a need. There's quite a few parents, just like parents across the country here who, when something happened, parents, like, tap on us, like, "Hey, Bernita, you
Yeah.
see what they doing to kids over here?" And so, in 2020, the schools had shut down, and our children did not have connection to schools from March 13th to almost the mid-May. Every time a parent asked for something, they were shunned, even on social media. Like, you should have seen some of the teachers and some of the district board members talking to parents all kind of way on Facebook. And people were tagging me in the post, like, "Bernita, you see what happened to this parent? Bernita, you see what happened?" And so I started having these convenings with parents, virtually. Hey, what you want to do? Hey, here's how you advocate. The same thing I was doing in person. And a lot of go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I just want to go back just a hair about that new principal that came in and said, look at the community. A
Mhm,
lot of the times, as educators, we talk about the power of high expectations of like,
mhm.
if you set high expectations, they're going to get right under there and meet your expectations or fall slightly short so your children will succeed. But we rarely talk about the power of low expectations.
Yeah.
And from what you said about that principal, it sounded like she had extremely low expectations
Yep.
for that school, for that community, for those children. And it really started to affect everybody within a building.
Within the whole entire building, and a building that was already overcrowded, struggling. They had
Mhm.
closed the building across the street, the school across the street, both were DPS schools.
Okay.
They had closed the building across the street. The building across the street was way bigger than the school my daughter went to. So most of those families had to crowd into the school where my daughter was going to,
Wow.
right? Actually, it happened the same year when the teacher lost my daughter. That year, that teacher had 36 kids in her class.
At, in first grade?
Yes.
That's a
7
lot,
of 'em
baby.
7 of them were special needs, and she had no pull-in or pull-out support whatsoever.
First grade is what I taught the longest, and that is a lot of children.
And so, it literally had me like, and I may have that number wrong. Please don't quote me on that. Is
That's
it
okay.
26?
If it's in the 30s, it's too much.
But I know she had a large bucket was special needs or unique learners,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And she
difficult.
had no pull-in or pull-out support, and that was how, later on, me and that teacher kinda became really close, like, we did, despite what had happened with my daughter, because I realized, like, she was overwhelmed. She was
Mhm.
extremely overwhelmed and overtaxed, and so the new principal, when she came, her thing was, "Yeah, well, and the teachers who have extra, students in their class, they get paid extra for it anyways." Like, in other words, get a grip. And I'm sitting up there like, lady, what?" But I mean, she started having teachers quit, right? She started having, and a lot of people who hear this may assume that everybody I'm talking about is white, right? Or of another race. Like, you really don't care because you don't feel the struggle that we feel as black people. No, this was a black principal.
Ugh,
Right, this was a black principal who had been and she was very clear to let you know she had been in the district for years, right? So, that was twofold to me. One trying to make you feel like, "Shut up, I'm the professional and I know," and the other one, "I got my tenure, so I ain't going nowhere anyway, so you might as well not worry about it," right? Even the way she handled parent concerns was always, I would watch her. If a superintendent walked in that building, she would put on her parochial and she would, "Hey, how you doing?" The you
yeah.
know, a parent walking that building, this lady would literally go from that to, "Well, what you expect me to do?" And I'm sitting up like Principal White. So many times me and Mr. Hayes would do this. "No, no, no, no. Come on, mama. Come on. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this." Like, fending parents off of her because they were about to snap on her. And it trickled through the whole building. It really did. And I really honestly will say that school wasn't the same until they got a new principal.
Wow. That's just so unfortunate for the children that are there. And one thing I always keep in mind a lot of the times when we hear from leaders and stuff, they're like, just wait, we're figuring it out, we're figuring it out. And for me, with my babies, I'm like, I can't afford to wait. They're
I
growing
can't
up.
afford to wait. I can't. I can't.
Yeah, it's like while you're trying to get through the system of either firing a teacher, hiring a teacher, getting resources and stuff, these children right here in front of us that belong to us are growing up
Yep.
and they don't have time to wait for you to get your act together. So that's what always hurts my heart hearing those stories of like,
Yeah.
well, what about those children that were there while
Yep.
she was still there?
Yeah, and I often sit back and think like, where are those children now, right? Like, where
Mm,
I wonder what experiences they have because my daughter remembers her, and she remembered the first principal also, and she remembered how beautiful that first principal was, right?
yeah,
Miss Little was her name, and I promise you, every child that walked through that building, she knew everybody's name. I can't conceive it in my. She knew everybody's name. Once she got your name one time, seemed like she knew it, right? She had a connection to the family. She wanted us there. But I say all of that to say I look at how the system was back then with my son, how this becomes generational, right? How this becomes generation after generation of
yes.
failure for students, right? Failures for educators who actually got in this work to care for children, who actually got in this work to actually make sure children are educated, but then there's caught up in all this red tape and people who have power struggles and all this kind of stuff, and they just even tap out. They're like, "Yeah," you know? And so I often tell people, like, one of my slogans is, "If you won't reimagine education, then we'll do it ourselves." And that's what we're doing. A lot of parents are tapping out. Parents are tired. Parents know the discord that they've dealt with in education. And a
Mm,
lot of those parents are saying, yeah, I remember being bullied. So when they see that first sign of their child being bullied, or yeah, I remember those tests and I remember how nasty those teachers were. I remember how I struggled as a child and nobody saw that I struggled. And now I'm grown and found out I had attention deficit, or I found out I had, or the times my mom sat in this building and was talked to any kind of way.
yeah.
So all of those experiences are lived experiences, and it's one of the reasons why so many people are being brave enough to walk away,
Yeah.
you know?
So, what was it like for you when you finally walked away? I know it can be scary. I know
Yeah.
it was for me.
It was, but I'll say what we did with Engage Detroit, we started coaching families. So I admit I'm not the homeschool expert whatsoever, right? I'm always going to my coaches if a parent asks me something, even today, and it'll be 6 years that we've had Engage Detroit. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And so, I got some of my friends who I knew homeschooled online with parents before we started Engage Detroit, and those friends were just talking to moms or dads like, "Well, okay, so you wanna homeschool? Here's how you do it. Here's how what do you okay, well, what type of homeschooling do you wanna do? Okay, okay, mom, it's okay, right? Like, it's okay that you don't know. Well, where do you need to start? What type of child do you have? What type of learner do you have? Because that's key too, right? Like, and I don't mean the type of learner like putting it in a box like there's 4 different type of learners. No, like what do your child love? Your child might like math today and science and this. How can you incorporate math into science or or math into history that they don't like, right? Like parents really think out of the box about the process. And so I was being coached too that first year we had Engaged Detroit. I actually put my name on the roster to go to my coaching sessions, and my coach was a young lady named Keisha, and who had these 2 beautiful children who had homeschooled, and she homeschooled them, like, across the country. They had She actually has 3 citizenships, so her and her children have dual citizenship, like, all this kinda stuff they had done homeschooling, and I had watched that, but being coached helped me not to be so afraid. And then being a part of our whole entire village helped me not to be so afraid because I felt like I had people there who, I could piggyback on like, "Hey, what you doing with your child with
Yeah.
math? Like, I'm struggling with chemistry with this girl. So what are you doing?" So, and then the other thing, my most important thing is always to help parents think about policies. What are the policies? What are your rights around it? And what are some standards that you want that one your state requires when homeschooling and standards that you want to meet for your household and you and your child want to meet. The other thing I'll say is I always tell people talk to your children about homeschooling because every homeschool child doesn't want to homeschool.
That's true.
Right. So sometimes it helps for a parent to say, okay, my child doesn't like home doesn't is afraid of homeschooling. So let me get them in some type of group setting.
Yeah.
Right there. Because people have again the myths about homeschooling. They assume that because you're homeschooling, your child's just sitting at home in a corner in the house all day long and they're doing nothing but looking at a book. No, homeschooling is like everywhere, like all the time, right?
Yeah.
So we show parents how to do that and kind of think just really thinking, shifting their mind from a brick and mortar 7:45 to 3:30 school
Yeah.
timeline to the wonders of when we are at the museum, we are homeschooling. When we are at the grocery store, how do you turn a grocery store run into homeschooling? How do you turn a family vacation into homeschooling? If your child learned about Thurgood Marshall and you're going on vacation and he was infatuated about this, right? Are there any monuments where you're going where you can go take him? Or are there any major libraries where you can take him to learn about this person that they loved, right? Debating, like bringing them into debate teams and having them a part of different, like, academic teams or orchestras or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's a lot to it, but it's fun. So it's not what people typically think about homeschool.
And the part that you mentioned about you not knowing everything and then saying, like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? I think that's what trips people up, not being a part of a community,
Mhm.
be able to lean on somebody else. Because when you're doing something in a vacuum, you feel like, what am I doing? Am I the only person doing this? Am like, this is so confusing. And I'm a firm believer of we are better together.
Yeah.
So when we start to bring community together, things get better. So I love that you mentioned the community aspect of it. So with your work with Engage Detroit, what do Black families understand that policymakers and school leaders often ignore, in your opinion?
Say that one more time. What do Black families understand that
That
policy
policymakers and school leaders ignore.
the fact that we know what we need.
Mm,
Like, that's one of the top things, right? Like, they assume so when our local superintendent made a comment. We were on a podcast, I think in 2022, and they were asking him something about homeschooling. The podcast was around where are the children? And they were talking about the truancy rates and how many children are missing from schools. And he made a comment that, the pandemic's over, all these parents still keeping their children at home. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is how I heard it, right? And then all
no,
the people are keeping their children at home. You don't know what's best. Bring your children into the buildings. The pandemic's over. And then he went to the literacy rate of adults in Detroit. And he said that, first of all, the literacy rate is so low for adults in Detroit that they need to have their children in schools. I said, you do know these same parents that you talking about are the same ones, the reason why you got your job, right? The same parents are the ones who rallied at the Capitol to make sure the DPSCD's deficit was paid off from the state and oversight was taken. Oversight for schools stopped. And parents were the ones who did videos, who talked to legislators, who told stories, and everything you can think of to make sure that we had not just a superintendent, but we had even a board back in the city of Detroit. So the
wow,
same parents that you're talking about are so illiterate are the very reason why you got your job. Right. So we often assume legislators and things are often assuming parents don't know or parents are too naive to engage with, right? Or they're the professionals. Just trust us. No, no, because I'm the one who birthed these babies. Okay. I'm the one who lived daily with these children. And even the ones I didn't birth, I'm birthing those through this system to become something. Don't negate the experiences that we hold as parents. Because we may be the very deciding factor. We are the very deciding factor on whether you get reelected, one, right? But
yeah.
we may be the ones to save your whole political career if you talk to us.
Mhm.
Because if you genuinely care about your constituents, you'll come and you'll converse with us. That's what community means. Come commune with us.
Yes.
But they don't see the value in that. A lot of people don't. And or they want to come hear from a couple of parents, then go up there and assume that you can create policies and legislation without us in the room. And that's never been successful. Look at our local legislation now, right? Like it's never been like every bit of democracy is at risk right now So anybody who claims that they want to be a good legislator or policymaker needs community.
We all need community.
Yep.
I
Yep.
love that you said that because for me, always the thing that always grinded my gears was like, "Oh, well, we know better." It's just like, "Sit down. We'll tell you what to do." And it's just simply not true. And I think that's why everything is just so disjointed
Yep.
because we're not making these decisions together.
Mhm.
So that's brilliant. One, I do want to pivot just a little bit because I definitely want to get into your work with the road trip Nation's Future for Work documentary. And I saw and it was really cool. First off, please tell us about the documentary
And
and how that experience deepened your understanding between the link between school and opportunity as an adult.
yeah, so me, myself, a black mama from Detroit, a white I keep saying a goat farmer, but a white horse farmer and a
Mhm.
white Vietnam vet went on a road trip, right? Like traveled from California to DC in a green RV. And the point was to think about like when you're at this midlife level, like what does it look like to shift from one aspect of your work to another? And how do you shift, right? And then what does the future of work look like for our young people across the country? And at some point, I was thinking, this needs to become a career. Like parents, we don't need to have parents that come to the point of advocacy. Like I'm working at McDonald's or something, and I come work for you to make sure I push this legislative journey, this legislative bill that you want to go through. I advocate, I rally parents, I this and that. And then when you finish with me, it's like, oh, okay, you can go back now. We finished with you. You know, we'll call you back out when we need you again, right? Like
Oh,
parents aren't just a face for you in a crowd. So how do I make this a profession? And so I wanted to visit different people who had made pivoted from working for people to actually doing it on their own. Got to meet some wonderful people across the country. I mean, it was really a beautiful sight to see people who had one of the guys from Singular University. He literally I ended up finding out this guy had taught at Singular University. He's a part of oh my God, what do you call it? Oh my God, my mind just drew a blank. Silicon Valley. So
okay.
he's part of Silicon Valley, like all this kind of stuff. And Gary is really one of the smartest people I know, and he had no college degree. And when I heard that, I was like, now here I am doing all of this work, right? And I didn't have a college degree in education. So that was one of the things holding me back. And a
Mhm.
couple of times I had applied for higher jobs doing advocacy work for organizations, and they would not hire me just because I didn't have a college degree. And I was like, sir, I have owned a business since I was 22 years old. I have ran, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have, but they were still on this, yeah, but we're going to hire somebody else but I've never been a person who shy away from challenges. It just was kind of like eating me up that people weren't hiring me.
Yeah.
Then on that trip, I ended up finding out, realizing, okay, Bernita, you need to do what you do best. You started your hair salon because people kept messing up your hair. Like you started doing hair as a teenager because of that, right? You started an independent living facility because your family had experienced homelessness and psychological issues, and you saw that in your family. So you started an independent living home because. So I was like, okay, so I want to do advocacy, and I'm helping all these parents. So let me start an advocacy network because this is what's needed. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah. And the journey, it was fun. It was 28 days, really quick, and experienced some stuff. I was like, we on the road in these rural areas in this RV and with goats and donkeys and all this kind of stuff, like a black mom from Detroit, right? Like, and we had to drive it ourselves. We had to learn how to drive it. We had to go to a class and all of that. But it was wonderful. And actually my daughter, when she graduated, she got a chance to she was a roadie for our Road Trip Nation. So
Oh,
she's driven an
fun.
RV. Yeah, she's driven an RV, one of their RVs from I think it was from Texas to DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. During your time working on the documentary, what would you say are some skills that kids or families should focus on for the workforce in the future? Because I really like that you mentioned like the having the degree, not having the degree, because I feel like things are shifting.
They are.
Or it was like, you have to have a degree to be a voice in this space, point blank, period. And even for myself, sometimes I think I shouldn't be doing this kind of work because I don't have a PhD. So,
Mm,
like, everything just keeps getting moved farther and farther down. But in your experience, how is it shifting and what kind of skills do you think are most important for kids today?
yeah, so a couple of things. One, I know this may sound typical, but AI, the
Yeah.
future of work consists of a lot of computer stuff,
Mhm.
a lot of automated engineering things. I would tell anybody to focus on the trades, but the sides of the trades that allow you to be like not just hold the typical wrench, right?
Okay.
What does it look like for you to understand AI? We as Black people really have to not be afraid of AI. A lot of people are like, well, AI is going to rule the world. I personally feel AI would never rule the world
No.
because if you work with Chat GPT and all these different, you know how many errors happen on a regular basis. But what is it doing? How are you creating what your community needs? And how are you creating space for you to have a career in it? That's one of the most important things. And a lot of our children's schools don't have anything related to AI. And parents' households are like, I don't want my child messing with it. No, because I don't want them caught up in some no. Work with them, show them how to use it, right? Get them a class. The other thing is the trade again, the trades. Those trades, people are so misguided when it come down to seeing like the garbage man, right? They're misguided when like, do you know how much janitors make? Like, do you know how much and all of these type of things are things that you can venture off and do and make money on the side also, right? It's not going to be too many people bring a robot in to fix their toilet. It's not going to, but it's not just about the trades. It's about even whatever field you go into, always be willing to think out the box. If you're going into nursing, don't just go into nursing to become a nurse. Go into nursing to become one of the, I wish I knew the title. My aunt is this type of nurse that she actually does the reports for the doctors when a person is denied for a process. So if a person come in and they need a surgery, the insurance company denies it. She does all the research, the medical research to understand why this person needs this or why this person doesn't need it. And she presents it to the state of Michigan and the medical boards to actually get this person approved or say that they can't get it. She's an RN, but people they don't see the different aspects of some of the careers. So the degree is not always the way forward. It is not. And sometimes for some people like me, I honestly I don't know that I want to go back to school, but I've taken so many certification courses. I have a Georgetown University education finance certification right on the wall over here. I have so many certifications, but none of that made me who I was. Those were stepping stools in the process of me already doing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just got that in 2024, I think. Like I've
Yeah.
been doing this work now for 15 years. So, and then the other thing I tell people is whatever hurts you, whatever hurts or harms you, usually will fuel your passion.
Mm.
You know,
Ooh.
whatever hurts her, and I guarantee you, there is somebody out there right now who's like, "This sucks. This career, this portion of my career or my education sucks. What you gonna do about it? Because if it sucks for you, it sucks for somebody else."
Yes.
And that's what I've always been driven by, right? Like what I learned to change this for me right now, somebody else needed. And
Mm.
there's millions of businesses that have been started like that. So don't be afraid to start slow or start fast, whichever one is your niche, but start. And don't be afraid to think, like you said, you don't have a PhD.
Yeah.
I know so many dumb PhD holders. I be looking at them like, oh, Tink Tink, you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get nothing, right? Like you just got letters behind your name. Do you even
Yeah.
know what the letters mean, right? Like, but never let that stop you because I guarantee you, if you were positioned to be anywhere, and if you find yourself wanting to be anywhere, it's meant for you to be there.
Yeah. That's so true. And I feel like I'm getting coached here. Like, yeah. Because, I think like for ourselves, we're always thinking like we're not good enough, especially in the African American community. The low expectations comes into play. So it's just so easy for a lot of people to get caught in that trap.
Yeah.
So my question for you is between your work with Engage New Detroit, I keep on saying New York. I don't even know what's wrong with me. Detroit.
Maybe it'll be engaged in New York one day.
Yeah.
You speak of
Engage
something to
Detroit.
existence. Yeah.
Yeah. In the documentary, what can black families do today to change their child's trajectory based off all of
Mhm.
your experience?
One stop. Stop for a moment. Take as many pauses or stops as you need to listen to your child.
Mm,
I didn't do a lot of that. I didn't. I was so fast paced and so on the go. But stop, listen. Like I really should have homeschooled my child when she asked me in 5th grade. I
mm,
didn't homeschool her till she was in the 10th grade, 11th grade. So stop. Don't be afraid of making some endeavors that your children and you need made because you don't want to have regrets later or have this moment like, dang, I wasted time. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody's at a place now where you feel like you wasted time, you still got time, right? But because I still ended up homeschooling, right? But I often think back on how many years that was 6 years that I had my daughter in a system that was actually pushing her buttons on a regular basis. So I would tell families to stop and also stop and figure out what you need as a person. A young lady, young black lady, was on a show I was listening to, and her coach, she was about to get her PhD. She wanted to go get her PhD.
mm,
And she said, I come from a family where I'm the first person to graduate from college and get a master's degree. And right now, my family is like really, oh my God, girl, you've made it, right? Like you've made it. And she said, but there's something pushing me to get this PhD. Now, this is on the other side, right?
yeah.
And so Susie Orman told her, well, what's preventing you from going back? She said, well, my family say, I can make this amount of money and this and that. And I'm doing good. This is the best I've ever done. And so she said, well, but how much money would you make 3 years from now if you go to school now? She said, well, what happened? Will you not have a job now? She said, no, well, I could go to school now, but I still won't make, but the job that I would have, I still won't make, in order for me to go get my PhD, blah, blah, blah. So she told her, she said, so add up 3 years of that income at that job. Maybe it's $75,000 she would be making right now, but
Mhm.
she still be able to go to school, right? Add up 3 years of that job and then add up how much you'll make once you get your PhD. And she said, or add up if you don't take these 3 years and get your PhD, what's the max you ever gonna make at this amount? And so it just made her think through like just stopping and understanding what I need as an individual to be what the best me that I need. Now,
Mm,
for some people, it may not be the PhD. For
yeah.
some people, it may be the bravery to say, I'm going to stop and I'm going to save this and that amount out of my check, and I'm going to start this organization that I've been passionate about because I have this student who's an autistic learner, and I'm starting this mom group, and I'm going to find myself in a position to meet people who's going to help fund this
Yeah.
because you'll never find yourself in a specific position until you start something, like till you take those next steps. And so you stop for a second some things, but you go forward in the other things, like be brave, be bold. Again, like I said, I have most of the things that I've created have been out of need for me and my family,
Same.
you know? And here I am. We have a whole, I wish I could show you the building. Like we have a beautiful building. In about 20 minutes, children gonna start flooding in. This is their homeschool space. Like we literally, I'm gonna turn the camera around for you so you can see our, like right there, we have a couch full of instruments, right? You see
Oh,
those?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Violins.
So the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, excuse the other junk that came in the view, but the Detroit Symphony Orchestra literally teaches classes here for our
S
children for free. These are free instruments our children got this week.
Wow.
We had a we had almost 60 children who got instruments a year and a half ago, and then this year we just got another 19 instruments. Like, and so just because I was like, my daughter had a need and I start helping other parents with their needs. Now I'm sitting here in a building every day and get the privilege of having young kids who come through here, like Miss Bernita. guess what I did? This and that, blah, blah, blah. Or hear violins. And my grandson is participating in it. So it's just don't be afraid and know that you're so powerful. Like Black, we really don't get how powerful we are and how needed we are.
Yeah.
This world cannot function without us. So any idea that you got is powerful. Who knows?
Like, I never thought I would be doing this still after the very first experiment interview that I did. So, for my last question for you, when you imagine a future where Black children are fully seen in school and work, what does that future look like to you?
Dang, you gonna make me cry. Black children knowing their worth, the adults around them understanding that Black children are not a problem, that the systems that we currently have in place are the problem and not our children, that Black children are not broken, Black children are not flawed, they're very ingenious, and Black children are appreciated for the intellect that they bring into those classrooms, and they're acknowledged for every unique experience that they have, and that the educators are well taken care of, or whether those educators are the parents or an educator who went to school to be an educator. But the educators are well taken care of themselves so that they don't dump on our children, because I see that as a large problem. A lot of people see the children as the problem coming into those spaces. And that is so sad to me. And so the future that I see is our children, 13 years old, saying, when I become a doctor, by the time I'm 20, because I've had the right education, like I'm already in college, because a teacher didn't see me as a threat, or I didn't have to compete for it, because my ingenious self is just unique and everybody respected my uniqueness. So they helping me to be on this pathway of success. That's the future that I see. I see not the battle between public and charter schools or private schools or homeschool, but understanding whatever type of schooling a child does is unique and needed for that child and appreciated. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Bernita, for taking the time out of your busy day to be on this podcast and share your heart with everybody, because I already know that you've changed so many lives with what you do. And it's been a privilege to listen to what you do and to see what you've done. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Of course, somebody screaming at the screen, why didn't you ask this? How can they contact you?
Yeah, so they can contact me at B Bradley. So that's BBRADLEY at Engaged Detroit HSC.com. Or just look up Bernita NeNe Bradley on Facebook. Like, I befriend people. I might come and ask people, like, who are you? But I befriend people all the time. Or look up Engage Detroit.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
to everybody watching, we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, everybody.